So I think this is your topic here.
So many story about my housemate. What was it? Oh yeah, English question.
Okay, what's your English question?
So I see. What is a I see mean? On the dictionary, or how I understand, how I know that I see mean, it's like I understand. So actually, I'm not sure how I see and I understand is different. But okay and I see is slightly different for me. Okay, I should explain.
Sure, go ahead.
It's like, okay, I have my roommate, right? He's same class with me, and he drive a car. I don't really remember what exactly conversation was, but I brought up because it's happened a lot. And he's international student, and whenever let's say I'm just like, give him a kind of information. Not information. Notification. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, today I want to stay school for a little bit study, or I have like, I don't know, go out with my friends or whatever. So like, I don't need to take a car, so I'm going to take a bus. So, that's it, right? I'm going to take a bus. Mm-hmm. So like, I just letting him know that he don't need to wait for me to go back home. He doesn't need to give me a ride. And if I got that message, I would say, oh, okay. That's like, for me, it's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But he's reply me like, I see. I know it's nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. It's small awkwardness that I feel like. Because if he asked me like, hey, I didn't understand like how the altimeter works, or I didn't understand the contents about like some topic in the class, right? And I was like, oh, okay, that's blah, 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 then this way. That's why the answer is this way. And then he said like, oh, I see. That makes sense. That's how I use I see for the conversation or whatever. But there's no clue because I'm international student and I wasn't sure. So I thought like, I'm going to ask you. Yeah. I always ask English question to you, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like how the difference, I see, okay, I understand, or whatever. Anything else?
Yeah, so how I see your question is that I see is equivalent to I understand.
Is it?
That's how I interpret it. Correct. And then okay just means I accept what you're saying. So, okay, so for example...
What about I got it?
Or I got it. I think that's probably another different... I got it's probably... Or maybe just got it. Is it a totally separate thing? Okay.
Got it and I got it is separate?
Yeah, that's it. I got it is separate from I see, okay, I understand. Okay, here's my scenario. So let's say I tell you, hey, I'm gonna go out and get some groceries. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
I understand.
So that's weird. If you say I see or I understand, right? I would find that weird. Because I would expect you to say okay.
Yeah.
Or all right. Something like that.
It's like, oh, I see. You're going to shopping.
Yeah.
That's why you're preparing the grocery bag. Like I'm...
Yeah. But if let's say I'm teaching you something, like I'm like, hey, okay, I'm teaching you how to use the blender or microwave, let's say. I'm like, okay, you press this button, that button, and then you press start. You could say okay, that's fine. If you say I understand or I see, that's okay too.
It's more like you're a professor and I have a question like, oh, I didn't understand this topic. Could you explain to me?
Yeah.
And you nicely explain to me. And I was like, if I say, okay, it's like rude, right? It's more like, oh, I understand now.
Yeah, I'd say okay is a super general term for agreement. I see or I understand designates you have accepted some new knowledge and something you didn't know before, but now you know and understand. So even my previous example where I said, hey, I'm going out for 5 minutes, I'll be back. If you say I understand, it sounds weird, but it still works, right? Because like you didn't know that I was going out, but now you do.
So how I feel awkwardness from my roommate is correct.
Correct.
I mean,
yeah.
I never correct him. I never tell him like, oh, you shouldn't use that way, or I feel awkward, because that's not how I'm supposed to do. Maybe like native people tell him and it's better. Like tell him like advice and better than I tell him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is just a very, very tiny English nuance that really distinguishes between a native speaker and a ESL foreign speaker.
What did you say like before ESL?
Native speaker?
No, about like the people ESL English, like you say like some you created the word?
Nuance?
No, ESL something.
I don't know.
Don't remember.
I don't know. You have to listen back to the podcast.
It's like Japanese people English, Japanglish, Konglish.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
But if you did want to correct your housemate, just tell him in those situations, just say okay instead of I see. It should be fine.
Yeah. Those were difficult for me too. Like I never know like when I'm using some weird English. Maybe you guys know a lot because I'm talking alone on YouTube, and you told me that you don't like correct me, right? As long as you can understand, you don't want to interrupt me. But I really appreciate sometimes, like I'm in a class and after I did the presentation, I have one classmate, he's American, and he always nicely tell me like, okay, you just say that you want to work for the seaplane, but that seaplane sounds a little bit awkward. So if you have a chance to saying same thing, you just want to say you want to work for seaplane. You don't need to put that. And those small correction, I feel so happy. Like I really appreciate, because it's a really bad habit for me, like using wrong English without noticing it, and especially those nuanced stuff that I never really know. And if I have a lots of like Canadian friend, then I naturally learn, right? But since I'm in an international student class, and it's like no one really like can correct each other. So I was actually watching the other people's YouTube. She's Japanese. She speaks really nice English, and I think they're like talking about how to study, and it's really good to use. Always, it's like a common sense that it's good to use English dictionary instead like Japanese English dictionary. But it's really hard, right? Like it's happened for me. Like I start looking for one word in English dictionary, and then I don't understand what all the words like in there, so I have to look for other word. Eventually I forgot what I was looking for. But there's a good tip that I saw, good idea is like you start looking for the word you already know. You already know the meaning and you use it. But let's try to search the word in English dictionary again. So how I understand is like I might find other meaning or like variety of the meaning or how to use. Maybe I will realize my mistake. And once I start doing it and I get used to how to use English dictionary, and I can sometimes try to the word I never know. I think this tip works for the opposite way. People who studying Japanese, right? It's for everyone. It's so difficult. I don't know if people use Japanese dictionary to study Japanese.
I don't know. Didn't you use that at the beginning?
What are you talking about?
Japanese dictionary?
国語辞典? Yeah. I think. But like, because this channel is, like Japanese, I want to help the people studying Japanese. And maybe it's good to search the word that you already know, you use often. But just try to look for again and make sure. Yeah, I think that's a good way, right? I think so.
I'll be the wrong person to ask.
Yeah, I think so. You have no interest in learning other language.
No, I'm terrible. Yeah. Pretty much only know English, so very good.
Thank you for listening to this clip of the podcast. To hear the full version or extra podcast, please consider joining Patreon too. Yeah, that's all for today. Bye bye.